The HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is powered by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. Out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With balanced fat and protein to support peak condition, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the pavement ends and the truck doors swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything. Strong, focused, ready for anything? That's a Eukanuba dog. Since 1898, Old Town has been building the most advanced, quality watercraft products to give you the very best experience on the water. Whether you're hunting, fishing, or enjoying a relaxing paddle on the lake, there's a boat for every type of adventurer. If you haven't seen it, check out their newest offering, the new grab-and-go watercraft designed to function as your boat, blind, and retriever. The easy-to-conceal, 11-foot 9-inch, 56-pound Solo Sportsman is the ideal craft for those in search of a stable, lightweight craft that's easy to paddle and even easier to transport or stash. Designed with the hunter and angler in mind, the Solo Sportsman is equipped with thoughtful shell, tackle, and tool storage, a comfortable and adjustable seat and foot braces, an accessory track, and rod holders. Check it out at oldtowncanoe.com/sportsman. Soundgear is offering a 35% discount to the HP Outdoors listeners for their instant fit industrial and shooter products. You can head over to soundgearhearing.com and use the promo code HPO35 to claim your discount today. Original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls in the market today. They're made right here in America, and they're offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free, and international orders are also accepted online. A 20-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty accompanies every call purchased. 737 Duck Calls. Lead the flock.
All right, and today we are joined by a guide and a on-screen star of The Dream Job, a new web series that's out, Mikal Gowins. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I like what you said there. That's great.
The face of the show, right?
Oh yeah, you could say that. You could say that.
We won't tell Ben. No, that's that's good stuff. So we get a ton of messages and people inquiring about what does it take to be a guide, and I want to turn hunting into my job and all these kind of things. And for the people that, go out on the weekends and hunt, and it seems like a really, really fun thing to do. And then maybe if these people go on a guided trip, they'll see all of the work that goes into it. And, I've hunted with you a few times and been out to Kansas and Canada and seen the amount of work that goes in, not just from, Ben's standpoint of being the head guy, but the guys that are doing the drive-in and setting up and getting in, getting the dirt under their nails, so to speak. So we wanted to bring you on today and shine some light on what you do and how you got into it and how you feel about it, and any info that you have for people that are looking to make it a full-time gig.
Yeah, well, the first thing I could say as far as getting into guiding or whatnot, I always wanted to be ever since I was little. I started hunting when I was at 5 years of age, and I first started out with just deer hunting and stuff. I was getting taken by my pops, my grandpa, and I was hooked from then on, I guess, from the hunting aspect of it. But truth be told, I did not like waterfowl hunting or like it on TV the first time I seen it. I actually got grounded the first time because Pops asked if there was any hunting show on TV, and I said no. And he flipped the channel, and they were hunting, I think they were hunting mallards in the green timber. And I got grounded the rest of that summer because I lied to him. I'll never. But long story short, full circle comes around, and now I'm up to my neck in waterfowl because I literally live and breathe it. So it's been one of those, I guess, I'm very blessed. I didn't know if would be able to do it because it does take a lot of sacrifice. It's not just all roses, like we get up and just shoot, ducks and geese and go home and blah, blah, blah. You've got a lot of expectations. You got to think from all these people that see that all they see is just the highlights or, the kill piles and stuff. But there's so much more that goes into it. With, like you said, us driving, the scouting, putting in the work, finding out where we want to hunt, getting permission on fields, late nights. It's not just a couple hour hunt, in the morning, and then the rest of the day you just get to, you know, I guess not do nothing. It's a full time type of gig.
So let's.
But you did,
I was gonna say, let's take it back. Where were you born and raised and grounded at?
yeah. So I was born in Western Kentucky. So for anybody out there, I'm sure when I've met different clients and stuff, they're like, "Oh yeah, like it's called Paducah, Kentucky." So a lot of people can relate to that, or they've drove through here or whatever. It's not a real big place, but that's where I was, born and raised, and we had some pretty good hunting opportunities for waterfowl, like on the Ohio River, Kentucky Lake, and Lake Barkley. Now is not near as good as it was even back when I was growing up, but you could still hunt, and these are all public hunting spots. But my first waterfowl hunt, now this would be after the grounded stage, so a couple years after that, my pops took me on Kentucky Lake on Birmingham Island, and we didn't even take a boat that day. I remember, and the story goes, he said he just wanted me to go because I had been asking him to go, and it was a very cold day, and he just wanted to basically freeze me out. He didn't think I would like it. Well, and what is kind of funny is the shirts that y'all just came out with, the water SWAT on the coots. It's actually a kind of funny story. So we set up along the shoreline there, and it was a rocky shoreline. And I mean, basically, if any duck would have come by, it was going to either be a diver or a pod of coots. And lo and behold, the only thing that came by was a pod of coots, and I'll never forget. I swear that's like almost where I got hooked, kind of, so to speak, because I shot those coots, and Pop said the look on my eyes was like, like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And I mean, we're talking about water swatting a coot, you know. So that was my first waterfowl actual hunt, so to speak, if you want to, say that. But my legit first time shooting mallards or, an actual hunt was that same year, the youth hunt down at Ballard County Refuge, which is, I would say it's probably 50 minutes or so from my house. And we had went down there to hunt, for the youth hunt. And it was a draw system that you put in for. And I remember Pops going, when we were going down there, he's like, well, we might not get drawed, so don't get your hopes up too bad. Well, lo and behold, we got the first pill, and it was the only hole that had open water. It was one of I think it was a handicap accessible blind, but they opened all the blinds up, for the youth season.
Right.
And we went down there, and I'll never forget when we got to that cornhole. And I mean, it was cold, and we busted ducks out of there and stuff and got set up. And the first duck I think I shot that morning was a gadwall that came in, if I remember right. But I shot my 4 mallards and then that gadwall. And after that day, my goodness, it was, balls to the walls, so to speak, on I want to do everything, I can to do with waterfowl hunting. And then that just started I guess, this addiction to where that's all I hunted, put my time into even back then. I mean, I remember if I could have good enough grades, I could, go on this trip or miss this day if the weather system was going to be this or that, because my pops was a big waterfowl hunter growing up before I came along. So it definitely got me. It bit me good.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. It's funny that you say the water swatting coots is what got
oh,
you
I know.
hooked.
Yeah, that not too many people. Well, now they know that story, but yeah, I don't. That ain't a story you just say just out of just at the fire, So,
So
but
going, all through high school, you're out hunting and everything like that. When did it kind of click? Like, hey, I want to do this. I want to put the time and effort into it to make it a full time thing.
yeah, so I went So graduated high school in 2011. And I went to college and got my graphic design degree, which that's what I thought I wanted to be at the time. But still at that time, I was missing class to go hunting and doing other stuff. And so basically, I just I met a buddy that I had first got this guiding job with, and I messaged this guy just out of just to see if he wanted help because I had seen where he had said it on Facebook, and my first guiding job was for spring snow geese, and he said to come out and see how you would like it, and if I would want to do it full time or whatever the case may be. And I came out and obviously had a great time guiding and stuff. I didn't necessarily like who I was with, but I met my one of my best friends now, Andy Sutcliffe, through that, and that's how we kind of opened our own snow goose business, which that would have been the season of 2015 and 16. So my first guiding year technically was 2014, but after that and seeing how the kind of operation worked and seeing how much work goes into it and seeing how much work that me and Andy put into it, we was like a really good team, because you can't have no egos in this, as you know.
Yep.
And that's basically how it all began. And then we just took the chance, on, all right, let's try to do this. And long story short, it all kind of fell in place. And I mean, the way it was just a lot of blessings, and a lot of stuff just kind of, I guess, worked itself out. But that would be how we kind of started out, how I wanted to guide. But even then, I wasn't doing it full time. I was still just, doing the conservation snow goose season. So I was working construction still. Um, and so I would take off, I guess, the 1st of February and run snow goose hunts from February to middle of March, depending on the migration. Um,
So instead of starting with some mallard hunts or diver hunts, you went straight into the fire
yeah.
of spring snow goose hunts. How did was you? I guess you had a guy to learn from a little bit, but how did that first year go when you guys started your own thing?
Yeah, so the first year, man, and that's the gauntlet of down here and down south. The weather, man, if he says it's going to rain or it's not going to rain, it's going to rain. It just seems the case that year. It's actually been the case the past couple of years. Um, but our first year, we started out obviously butterflies, and you got all these expectations, and we had actually the first year we didn't even know how many people we would book because nobody really knew about us or nothing else. But we had that first year we had enough booked where we ran a group every day, for the whole month of season come in February 7th, so we ran them to the first week of March. And so we would start out down here in southeast Missouri, and the hunting down here was pretty good then, even though with all the weather and whatnot. Um, but the first thing that really got to me as far as guiding and what you think it's going to be or whatever, you have to take into account everybody else's expectations, because they see these videos and everything else of just shooting hundreds upon hundreds or whatever the case may be on snow geese. And not all the time it works out that way, because like we said, it is the most temperamental waterfowl that I know. um, but we would start out down here in southeast Missouri, and then we would chase them all the way up to, well, which was Squaw Creek, but they changed the name. I can't even pronounce it right now. But we would follow them all the way up there, and then year two we actually chased them all the way up into the Dakotas for a couple weeks. Um, but but yeah, I mean, really, it was a good juvie hatch that our first year too, which obviously helps with killing more and whatnot as well. Um, but that's basically how that went, and it went good. And we're just trying to build on it now, and actually trying to think about moving out to Kansas and running some hunts out there, with Big Kansas Outdoors and stuff, because that's where I work now. Um, and it's a good area, and it's just one of those deals to where when I'm out there all the time now, I have that intel from us running hunts for going from the 1st of November all the way to when season comes in. So we've already got ideas of what's going on and whatnot, so I'm not as rushed to come back here.
Yeah, that
So
could be advantageous for you to have, the know of all the fields and birds and everything of the area instead of running back. But let me go back real quick. Um, you said you met one of your best friends and you guys opened that up. And
Hmm.
for people that are looking to get into guiding, this
Yes.
is a very simple question, but probably many answers.
Yeah.
Are guides that work together friends?
Ooh. Yes, you need to be. I would say that for sure because I would say, and this is just my personal opinion, but I would say the waterfowl industry is the most cutthroat uh, hunting business. I would say out of all of it, out of big game, anything, upland hunting, whatever the case may be. We're talking. I mean, a lot of people. You gotta have the work ethic, but also have to have the honesty. It goes a long way in this sport with wanting to try to accomplish something. You can't hide back feelings or, talk behind somebody's back or whatever the case may be. You have to be straightforward and really bond with, the people that you do work with. So, yeah, it does help to think that that guy you're working with is a good friend or whatnot. So I would say yes,
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
coming into it with a good character and being an honest type person, because like you said, as as there are so many guides and outfitters, it's a smaller circle than what people think. The word gets around if you're that jerk, or if you're trying to you know cut people out of fields or do whatever you want to do, but you probably get blackballed pretty quick.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, you just got to know. You got to just at the end of the day, it's all about respect, and as long as somebody shows you it, you got to show it back to them, and it just goes a long way. So
Yeah, definitely can see that. Let me have you learn all the people, teach all the people, um, the average day of what you do. Give me some times and maybe miles you travel, and just the overall look of a guide.
okay, so if we're talking about in Canada, so to speak, so when we're up there, we if you don't kill out in the mornings, clients are can go out in the afternoons for some part of the season and finish up their ducks, and then dark goose season is in the afternoons at a certain stage of the season. But as far as that goes, a day for us would be if you're running a hunt, let's say, and it's not like everything's 5 minutes down the road. A lot of times I hunted up there. I mean, I was driving 45 minutes or an hour to hunt. Some places because that was my area that I, scouted around the most. But let's say you would get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, whenever that may be, to give yourself enough time to, and you would already have your trailer and stuff hooked up the night before. But then we go to the lodge, you meet your clients for the morning, try to talk to them as best way possible. You never want to talk up a hunt because even though if you think it's going to be amazing, you just don't uh, want people to have these expectations, so to speak, and then you under deliver because you never know what's going through somebody's mind. So as far as that goes, the when we get there in the mornings and introduce ourselves to the clients, we're still straightforward and honest with them on what we're going to go do and whatnot. And then they follow us to the field. We how I like to do it. I don't like when the clients help set up for me, just because I have a way of doing things. Now, if they want to help, or whatnot, I still allow them to. It's not a big deal, but you just have your own ways of doing stuff. And some of these guys that come with us, it might be their first time or whatever, and they just kind of want to sit back and watch, which is fine, for me. But you're always on racing with the time because even though you've got 6 or 7 guys out there that okay, if they're not helping me set decoys, I'll have them brush blinds or whatever. It's still we're like, okay, shooting hours is at 6:04 or 6:05 or whatever the case may be, and let's say on the way to the field that morning, you got stuck or whatever, it's not all like, oh, okay, we got here and it got set up and we're good and you have 30 minutes to drink your coffee. And all mornings don't go like that.
Right.
Uh, so when that happens and there's a little time crunch, yes, that makes it a little hectic, especially up in Canada, because, if you're on one of them good fields or whatever the case may be, they come at first light as long as the weather's doing them right. And so we try to, kill out our clients to where they get their limits in the morning. But let's say if they don't, we go back to the lodge, we clean the birds, process, bag them up and tag them for the clients to take back home. And then this is where everybody, thinks we shoot ducks and geese and then we go nap the rest of the day. Not necessarily. From that point forward, let's say we might have to go brush the blinds again because they're not, they needed it or something, or we need to go do this because a piece of equipment went down, or maybe one of the trailer tires is, blown, or whatever the case may be, or something messed up with your truck. There's a million different things that go wrong during a season, and they will. Even though if you don't think it won't happen to you, it will. So there's not as much. Yeah, we do get some naps here and there, if you work out your schedule right. But then you got to think about it. If your clients don't kill out in the morning, we have meetings, after our lunch, kind of that morning on, okay, where do we need to take these guys for the afternoon to finish out their duck limit, or whatever the case may be. And so if you're the guy running the hunt that morning, the other guides are still putting in just as much work as you was, because they're out on the road scouting and trying to line up, whatever the case may be, because you don't know if you're going to kill out in the morning. We're still talking about wild animals here. So, so then you would go back out, and let's say if your clients still needed to finish their duck limit, you'd take them back out, hunt again that afternoon with them. And then you go back, you still clean all their birds that night again. So then you're double cleaning at that stage, and bagging them up. And then you try to get you a quick bite of dinner and maybe a beer or two. And then you're right back to trying to get to bed, because you got to get back up at 4 again and do it all over again. Whether you might get an extra hour of sleep if you get to scout, but still it's not, just getting up and hunting and then, messing off the rest of the day. That is not the way it goes at all.
Yeah, and making sure, and that's, I mean, so you're talking, that could be from 4 a.m. to a
Oh yeah, till
11 midnight.
yeah,
It's a very it's not 8-hour job.
no, it's not. It's not an 8-hour job at all. And I mean, and then you throw in the weather curveball there, to where you might have to get up even earlier because the roads are, bad for whatever reason, or you have to walk in the field because it rained 2 inches the night before, and you don't have the luxury of pulling a truck and trailer out there. There's all, like I said, all different stuff that people that I guess just want to be a guide, you don't necessarily think about.
Like you were saying, it might rain, something might break, and when you're in Canada, it's not very close to get stuff fixed.
Yeah, there's not a convenience store or a Walmart just 10 minutes down the road. I mean, you got to think. I mean, where our lodge is at, and let's say if you need something that is in the big city, Lloydminster is still, you're looking at a 50-minute to an hour drive to get there. So it's not just everything's convenient to get up there. You definitely don't want to hit a moose or a mule deer, nothing like that on the way to the field either. That calls for a very hectic morning.
Have you guys hit anything while you're up there?
Well, the first place I worked for up there a few years back, I know a guy that might have hit a mule deer. His name might be Mikal. I don't know,
Oh,
but yeah,
jeez. Oh, jeez.
I did hit one. So yeah, so it's more of a gauntlet up there, just because of how much wide open, and it ain't, it's not as much cities and stuff.
So I don't know if Canadians don't have any eye issues, but when I went up there, I forgot the solution for my contacts.
Oh yeah,
No one else in camp had any, and the grocery store and anywhere else in town, nowhere had contact solution. So I was
yeah,
like using water, and when we were up there, it was dry, and we're picking and brushing blinds, and it was all kinds of dusty, and my eyes were so itchy, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Is really no one has?" I think one person had the throwaway contacts you wear one day and throw them away, and I was like, "Man,
Mhm.
this is miserable." So I'll never make that mistake again. But
Yeah.
so we're going long days. What you might have? Do you have a day off during the week when you're up there?
We try to have Sundays, and like you would typically run a hunt maybe that Sunday morning, and then your clients roll out, fly back to where we don't have to run a hunt that afternoon, and we have new clients coming in on a Monday evening, so we would have that Sunday afternoon technically off, but still sometimes we scout just to kind of get ahead of the game. And then you have that Monday morning where you're technically off, like not running clients, so to speak. That's if I have a day off. Sometimes we're so booked that we don't.
Right.
We typically try to have it to where we have that Sunday evening to scout or be off, and then Monday morning to get a scout or kind of chill out before the new group rolls in, and then we are scouting, that Monday evening again. So
See, and one thing I noticed, kind of in the off season, is a lot of guides like to work out and kind of get in shape, and
mhm.
it probably helps going into season being in better shape because what is your main fuel for the day when when you go out? Blind snacks and Red
Uh,
Bull
I,
or Monsters probably add
yeah,
up to a lot of not healthy
yeah.
nutrition.
It's definitely not healthy. We should, me and Ben should be sponsored by Monster for sure. That's all we drink. It seems like when we're up there, that or coffee. But but yeah, that basically a typical day is trying to get anything to where you don't get that tired feeling, but it always comes. I mean, because you're talking about, and like what you were saying earlier, these people that just hunt on the weekends or whatever, and that's all fun and dandy. But when you're doing it 6, 7 days a week and hunting, sometimes twice a day, yeah, even though, we love what we do, it's time, and you're still, it's not like you have the same group of clients for 60 days. All these new groups that come in, they have expectations and you got to fulfill them. So,
Yeah, that has to be. Go ahead and talk about that. Just like expectations people have coming in, and I know the last few years Ben has done kind of a blackout during the season, so you don't see the pile picks, but
yeah,
um, people know that y'all are still killing, and
yeah,
it doesn't take much to go online and watch some films and
yeah.
see what you guys do. So, how do you manage that? And I know the one time when I was out in Kansas with you on a hunt, we didn't do too hot,
Don't
and
remind me,
yeah,
brother.
and
That
the and the guy was less than happy. But I mean, there were no ducks around, right?
Yeah,
Like that in that morning, they just weren't there.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing that, yeah, with these expectations, like I said earlier, like at the end of the day, we're still hunting a wild animal. So that creek specifically we hunted in Kansas, the evening before had ducks all in it. It looked like a layup. It should have been, but for whatever reason they had moved out that night, and I don't even think we had no crazy weather. If I remember that night, it was just a freak type of deal. Um,
Right.
as far as expectations go, and I get it too, because I mean, growing up, you watch the YouTube videos or the TV shows, on the Outdoor Channel or whatever, and they're showing you all the good stuff. They show you the pile picks or the 100+ bird days if we're talking about snow geese, or whatever. Um, and so when these people come, I will say this: the people that watch that stuff as much, and let's just say their one hunting trip or two hunting trips a year is to go with an outfitter, their expectations are higher than the everyday grinder, so to speak, that might not be a guy, but just has hunted enough to know that these are wild animals, and there's only so much we can control. It's a lot easier when people that actually hunt or have hunted a lot more because they get it because they've been in that scenario too. But the difference with when you're talking about being a guide, you've got to manage the I guess, manage the blind, so to speak, because let's say you've got 6 personalities in there that, maybe the guy next to you you're good with and talking, and he might have hunted a little more than the guy down on the end that's thinking, oh my goodness, what are we doing? If the hunt's not going right. So it's a very, you got to have people skills and the way to talk to people. And at first, I'll be the first to tell you that was one of my biggest, I guess, I don't want to call it a downfall because I'm a lot better at it now, but that was one of my biggest hurdles, I guess, to get over, because when you have a guy that when you tell him, yeah, there was this many in here last night and they should be coming from this way or that way, and then for some reason, let's say they don't show up or what they don't kill a limit, and I'm talking about even some guys' expectations are so high. Let's say you can shoot 8 dark geese and 8 ducks up in Canada, so there's 16. Well, if you take that and you run a group of 4 and they want to kill out or whatever, and let's just say they're 4 or 5 ducks shy of killing out completely. I mean, you can still, that's so liberal. We still killed a pile, but they could still go back and talk about that the hunt wasn't good. So, and that's kind of, that gets to some of us sometimes because it's like they don't appreciate what they're seeing, in some
Mm-hmm.
aspects. But majority of guys, they realize, I mean, like, oh my gosh, like this don't happen every day, and that goes back to because we put all the time in scouting and whatnot to assure that we have the best chance possible to help you kill out limit.
Well, and the worst part about that, and I've seen it when you end up 4 or 5 short, like the guys that complain about those days are usually the ones that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, so you bringing that up, there's another story about this happened going on 3 springs ago up in Canada with another real great Hunter Pickett. Um, we had a group of guys we took out for snows that morning, and I think it was 4 guys. So they in the limit up there in the spring is for 20 per man. So they could have shot 80 snows, and I put a video up actually on my Instagram a while back of a volley from that morning, and they in four I think it was 4.5 hours of pretty solid shooting that morning. I mean, it was wave upon wave of snows coming in. They ended up only shooting, I think, 42 geese.
Oh,
And
jeez.
it was one of those things like, we wasn't, and I understand not everybody can shoot, and I'm not saying I'm the best shot either or nothing, but if they realize and say like, oh man, we shot bad today, then you're good. But when those guys get back and they go to your boss or whatever, and they're like, yeah, we were shooting them a little far that day, and then that's why I take all these videos, because then you go and show your boss, or you are sitting around with the clients, drinking a cocktail that night, and they want to say something, then you show the video and everybody's like, oh no, those were actually at 15 yards. Like, yeah. So you always got to have some proof, because you never know, with personalities and stuff. But yeah, that was a time to where shooting was not particularly well on that hunt, and those guys were not the nicest. But we still tried to accommodate to them the best we could, but they were just kind of hard to please.
Yeah, and that has to be so just frustrating, right? Like you said, you put all the time and effort into it, and even when I came out this past season and filmed a little bit, and I think Corey was the guide on the one hunt, and these birds, they're just birds. It's like just mallards at 15, 20, 30 yards, and they're dropping like I don't I don't know how many were in a group, but there's like 3 birds will fall out of a
Yeah.
flock of 40, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that. It's just
Well, and then you get those subtle comments after the volley happens, and they say, well, you think those are close enough, or
hmm
and it's like, man, yeah, when I set the robo out this morning, they're right over top of it, and that's right at 20 yards or 15 yards. I mean, so I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely that's one of the biggest challenges, and that's why these guys that come that understand it and everything. I mean, well, that's why we really bond with those type of clients, because they get it.
yeah. So let's move over to just kind of your gear setup, and what what kind of gets you through the season, being out there every day that you can trust, and what kind of gun are you shooting when you do get to shoot? What kind of calls are you running? Just give the listeners a little rundown of what you
Yeah,
show
so
up with.
so as far as a gun, if I am going to use one because we can't shoot in Canada, if I'm going to use one here in Kansas or whatnot, I use a Benelli Super Black Eagle too. I've had her for a while. I got a couple of them, and I've just always shot them. And I've never really had too much of a problem with them. But some of the guys are partial to other brands, and I might be switching, but I don't know necessarily yet. But as far as calls goes too, I blow a Powers call on my goose calls and my duck calls, and they're actually based out of
I was gonna say
Paducah.
that's just from being in your backyard, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. Their house is like 20 minutes down the road from me, so I kind of am partial to them, so to speak, when it comes to the calls, because they do make good calls and whatnot. But as far as that goes, and as gear wise, if you're talking about decoys and whatnot, obviously everybody's seen how the silhouettes have came back at a very high rate right now, and I think everything goes in waves. You know, they'll be good now, and they're still going to kill geese. They've killed geese for years, but you're still going to have them days to where I think you might need full bodies or whatever the case may be. Um, and that goes with just along. If we're talking about a guide aspect, we do like running the silhouettes and whatnot because it's so much easier setting them up, and it cuts down on that time frame in the morning. You know, let's like I said, if you don't get to the field on time, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Uh, so definitely, the silhouettes have made it a lot easier, so to speak. But there's still some days that we want to run different stuff, and you don't want to. I think, especially here with Big Kansas Outdoors, same with Prairie Limits. You want to run what's working, when it is working, but we also like to set ourselves apart from everybody else because there's still little stuff, tips and tricks and whatnot that you can do that might not work every day, but there could be them days where it did work and that sticks, in your mind or your brain to where if that situation comes up again, you know what to do because it did work.
Right.
So yeah, and as far as I guess gear, besides as far as clothing and whatnot, I was a very growing up. It was whatever I could fit in or what pops had to wear, but now it would be I'm a firm believer in anything to do with Sitka gear, just because I like not having to wear the old school big baggy Carhartt that I'm already putting on weight in the fall, so I don't like taking an extra 400 pounds if I don't have to. So it's nice to wear lighter stuff but still stay warm, if it is cold out. So.
I hear you there. So, man, we are at the end of July. What are your feelings on Canada this year?
Whew, I was hoping you might not even bring that up
I
because it
know.
makes me sad, but it's not looking too hot right now for anything, as we all know what's going on with 2020. But right now they're saying it's still closed till August 21st, and if we're judging off how they've done the past handful of months, I mean, we didn't get to go up this spring for snows either.
Right.
So if we're judging it off of how they've been doing it, they basically wait till the 3 or 4 days before the deadline's up, and then they push it back another 30 days. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's a part of me that I obviously want it to open because we're losing out on a lot of money, and that's our livelihood, and well, that's what we want to do. But it does not look good for this fall. It
Yeah,
really does.
especially with cases going back up with all the new testing and cases rising, and I just don't think
I
that
just
they're gonna open it up.
Yeah, I just don't see them going from shutting it down as tight as it has been to okay, right after August 21st. Okay, Americans, run on in here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think even if they was to open it, they'll probably still do that 14-day quarantine. And if you think about it, if somebody's thinking in our shoes, they're like, well, you're going to be there 2 months. Yeah, we are. But most client trips, are either a 3 or 4 day trip, where they're flying in and out, and who can quarantine for 2 weeks when they got to get back to work or whatever the case may be.
Right. And we are slotted for early September, so I'm
Yeah.
very sad.
Yeah. So maybe there's a silver lining out of all of this, and maybe it'll open back up. But yeah, I just don't. The only silver lining I could tell you right now is maybe the Nodak boys, so to speak. If we get some good weather and push down and whatnot, they're going to have a bang up year, I would imagine.
See,
And
I was hoping that without the pressure up there, that all the birds would funnel down through the Atlantic flyway, and then
yeah,
I wouldn't have to go anywhere because we'd be covered. But
yeah. You watch though, if that still need a lot of really good weather to get them down, and you watch, it'll probably be the mildest fall ever, to where they just stay on that southern Canada borderline and stuff. Because I'm sure, once they hit North Dakota and all the pressure that I would assume is going to be there this fall, if it's warm, right back up above, north of them, people don't realize. I mean, ducks and geese, they will go right back to where they was at because they know that it's safe there. So.
right. Oh man. Well, hey, let's keep going on the 2020 with how bad it's been, and one thing that is unique when it comes to you, and not trying to put it with all the racial tension that's in the world right now, but an African American man that is out there crushing waterfowl and guiding in Canada and the United States, and there aren't many guys that do that. So what's been the benefits and I guess the negatives to that?
Well, I guess there. I don't want to say there's been a lot of negatives, or the negatives have been over the benefits part, but I guess people, if you've been in a place before or whatever that your ethnicity ain't normally in, you do get some looks. Because I remember Otter Slough down here in Missouri. We used to go over there and hunt, and I was obviously the only African American in there. And you get looks like, and you see buddies that are in their little groups and stuff, nudge like, oh, look, oh my goodness, there's somebody else that ain't normally in here. And they don't, and I'm a nice guy. I don't necessarily go out of my way to talk to people, but if you're going to be, cordial and respectful to me, I'm all for it. But when you don't acknowledge that I, bleed the same ways you do, or whatever the case may be, and I just want to do this, but then you see, like that example at that refuge, nobody wants to talk to you in the mornings, or whatever. But then when you got to go back after your hunt and you're turning in your ducks, where everybody's in line or whatnot, because they was doing an avian bird flu test that day or that weekend.
Yeah.
And the same guys that might have been saying a few comments under their breath or whatever might have came back with 2 gadwalls and a shoveler. Meanwhile, we had a 4-man limit of mallards, and they're asking me, well, how'd you kill them, or whatever the case may be. And that's where I do get a little hostile, so to speak, because I can see through the BS.
Right.
So my response to that most of the time is when they ask, where'd you kill them or whatever, I always say, out in the sky. I don't give no tips or nothing, because I can tell if you're genuine or not. Because I have had a few incidents where just people are just, just bad people, or just bad judgment, or they judge you before they even get to know you. And I get it with it, it being the waterfowl industry. Like we said, I don't know of another African American that guides full time in Canada, and can't, for you're talking 8-9 months out of the year, if we're doing spring snows up there.
Right.
So, it's you don't want to. I'll tell you something that I have never even told anybody this before, but it's one of them things. Okay, let's say if the 2 other groups go out in the morning and they kill out, and let's just say we were 5 short or 10 short, and we get back. It's always under my mind that I hope the clients don't think like, well, god dang, we went with him and maybe he doesn't know as much because of this or that. And that ain't the case, because like I said, I've been hunting waterfowl for going on 20 years. So but that's something that kind of goes through my mind sometimes. Like if I see them talking or like wanting to go with somebody else the next day, just for, and it might not even be that reason, but that is something that still kind of goes through my mind sometimes.
Yeah, and that makes me very sad for you.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean? Like it's, and that's I'd pick you every day of the week, man. I know
yeah.
I know what you can do, and been out with you, and not only that, you know, I've seen some of your stories, even, you know, when you get a break and you get to go home and hunt with your buddies and just pile them up there too. It's
Oh,
like, you know, this
yeah.
dude knows what he's doing, and it really is a sad day that, you know, the color of your skin gives you those thoughts, but
Yeah.
you know, more gives other people thoughts that they shouldn't have when you're just a stone cold killer. So, um, yeah, that has to be frustrating, and you know, especially as a guide in a cutthroat business, it's just another obstacle that you have to overcome, right? Like it's
And that goes back to, I mean, I'm so blessed that the people I have met through all of this, I mean, starting all the way back and stuff, and people I work with now and stuff, I mean, for them to even give me a chance, I mean, I take that, you know, that's amazing to me. And that's why I mean, when you respect somebody that you don't even know that is also not normally in this line of work, and you give them a shot, I mean, you know, I'll go to hell and back for you. So
yep, and that shows. You know, you're out there and you definitely put the work in, and man.
mhm.
So I guess we got a few minutes here left. Let's. I don't know if you want to share some stories, some good stories, some bad stories, some guide life to scare people away from getting into it, or maybe encourage them to get into it. Whatever you want to throw out.
um I would say, I mean, obviously you've got to love hunting and love what you do. But it's, you have to be fully committed. And what I mean by that is, uh, it's not just, you know, you hunting season comes and you guide for that 60-day duck season, and then you don't think about it no more, and then it, you know, comes back around. No, we're talking about, like, I just got back from Kansas last night because I was out there helping Ben trying to plant millet in some of our duck impoundments and stuff. And I mean, it's a full-time type of deal to where all the preparation and stuff, the scouting, and I mean, the whole nine, putting decoys together, making sure trailers run, all that. It's, you think, you know, it might be one of those things you just got to do it one time during the season or whatever. No, we're talking, I mean, every day. And the scouting is the biggest key. If you don't like, if you're just one of these guys that just like to see the pile picks and stuff, in which, as we know, I mean, it seems like every year that passes, that's all that anybody cares about on Instagram or what. It ain't, I mean, that has nothing. Yeah, that's your end goal, end result, but if that's what you're doing it for, you don't need to be a guide, because you're not gonna there's not gonna be, you're not gonna kill out every day. And if that's what you're if you're going for the glorified Instagram pic or whatever the case may be, I don't think you would last too long, if that makes any sense, you know.
Yeah, and that you know I just go back to, you know, coming out in Kansas and being the video guy, and you know, getting up and helping and the traveling and scouting, and it is freaking exhausting, and that's when everything's going right. Like that's without, you know, there
Yeah.
was I think a quad issue where on top of it you're trying to get that fixed in between hunts, and you know
Oh,
you know, going back up to Canada when everything's so dusty, you know, traveling those roads, and probably after every few hunts you have to clean all the full body decoys because they're just covered in a quarter inch of dust, and you want it to look nice, right? So it's like just these little things that add up, and they take you into that 18 to 20 hour days when it's, I don't I just I think there's a lot of people that see the pile picks and they see all the shooting and the laughing and stuff, but I don't think half the people understand what it takes to actually get in there and do it. And um, you know, just much respect to you and all the guys that do it the right way, because it's not an easy job.
no, it's, when we say it's a grind, I mean, it truly is. It's, I mean, you got to, especially with us, I mean, we start, you know, September 1st, and you're running 60 days up there in Canada, basically, or around that, depending on the weather, when it freezes us out. But then I go right from there to Big Kansas with Big Kansas Outdoor, or in Kansas with Big Kansas Outdoors. And then we run hunts there from the first part of November all the way to now with doing spring snows. You're talking about mid-February, first week of March. And then we only have, 2-3 weeks off, and then we go right back up and do spring snows in Canada. So, I mean, there's not a lot of, during that time frame, your down period, is the summertime, which is good because I hate summer anyway. I hate hot weather. But there's not a lot of downtime if you want to do it full time, and if you're fortunate and blessed enough to have the right connections, where you can. And I mean, a lot of miles on your truck. And I will say this too. You definitely want to have a dog that you like or trust, because he's your right-hand man in the car or truck most of the time when you're scouting or hunting or whatever. So that definitely helps if you got a dog, I will say.
And you have a black lab named Snow.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
How did that? I remember you're going to tell me the story. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but if it is, go ahead and.
Yeah, it's appropriate. I mean, it just goes back to when I wanted to open, our snow goose business and stuff. I had an older dog that passed away right before all that happened, and I was the type of person I was like, I'll never have another dog. I can't go through this. That feeling probably went on for maybe a couple months, and then lo and behold, I'm looking for dogs and stuff again, and I didn't want a black lab because that was what my old one was. Well, I knew a guy that had a litter, and he said, yeah, you get first pick, and I wanted a male again. And they always threw a couple yellows with the blacks that they would throw. And this one litter in particular this time, and I already had the name, that I wanted a yellow lab named Snow. And I guess it was fate or whatever the case may be, but there was 7 pups in the litter and only one male, and he was black as night. And at that point, I wasn't changing the name, and I wanted it to be unique. So yeah, I get a lot of people like, "Oh my goodness, why is his name Snow? He's black." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, let me tell you, this is why." So yeah, he's right here laying next to me right now. I think he's enjoying the off season a little bit more than me. But yeah, we're ready to get back to it for sure. So
He's a big boy too. What's he weigh?
right now he's we went to the vet the other day, and he's 104 pounds, and he's not. But the thing about it is he's not fat,
Right.
as you know. I mean, he's just a big lad.
He's a big bone dude. He's a he's a good,
Yeah, he's
good
thick.
dog. Good dog. Well, Mikal, I've enjoyed it, and I think people will get a little insight to your world, and I appreciate it, and I'm excited. I want to say I'll see you in Canada, but I'm not sure if that'll happen. So we will be out in Kansas early 2021, I believe.
Oh,
Or actually, it might be. I don't know if we're going out in the fall or January. It might be November. Anyway, I'll see you here coming up in the next few months.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, it was a pleasure, man. I thank you for having me on. And yeah, I hope people get a little insight to it at least. But I'm not trying to scare nobody away from guiding. You just got to definitely make sure you're all about it,
You got to know what you're getting into, because it's more than taking a picture at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, hey, enjoy the heat down there, and we'll try and keep the rain from coming off these Great Lakes, and make it a semi-decent summer the rest of the time.
Okay, well, sounds good, man.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
See you, brother.
That's going to do it for this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out some of our past episodes, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's the best way for like-minded hunters just like you to find our show. Check us out on social media, check us out over at hpoutdoors.com, and anywhere you can find quality podcast content. That's going to do it for this week. Till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.